What's up, guys? Tuesday morning now, and it's tipping down. I've just got absolutely drenched taking the dogs for a walk. But there's a couple of things I want to pick up on from yesterday's video and a couple of things that have happened since the race that I thought I'd better address. First of all, lots of you commenting that I didn't really reference yesterday in the Q&A video about the idea of Leclerc's unsafe release and then the fine that the team got. Lots of you saying it's great that the team got penalised and not the driver, because it's not the driver's fault. An unsafe release, he's just sitting there looking for the lights and then he goes when he gets a green light. That's a fair point. Of course, it's nothing to do with the driver, but I counter that every single time by saying, what happens when the driver is out on the circuit and has a spin, or he locks up and wipes out another competitor and then maybe gets a 10-second time penalty as a result? That was 100% the driver's fault, and yet the team has to suffer as a result of that. Anything the driver does on circuit, mistake-wise, the team gets penalised, whether that's by the stewards or just by a disastrous race result, and therefore the points and the prize money that go along with that. So I always look at these things as, you know, winning and losing as a team, and that, for me, goes along with the pit stop releases. A pit stop is a team collective effort, both with the team members and also with the driver as part of that team as well. The whole thing is done in conjunction with each other. And although in that moment the driver's just looking for a light that somebody has activated to go, so he didn't have control over that, he was doing what he was told, it's no different to when the driver is in control out in the circuit and the team have no control over the inputs he puts into the steering wheel or brake pedal. So that's that one. I just don't think there's a clean solution to that. I do agree, I do understand it's frustrating when your driver is penalised because of something that his team has let him down with, but it's just sport. That is sport. We win and lose as a team. Anyway, that's that one. I know you'll all have different opinions on that. That's absolutely fine. The other one, I need to address something that got blown massively out of proportion on Twitter the other day. Somebody posted a message, or sent me a message, saying that Nico Rosberg had made a comment at the German Grand Prix, something along the lines of, and forgive me if I've got the wording of this wrong, but he said something along the lines of, Lewis's illness at the weekend was all part of the Lewis Hamilton show. He likes to make it look harder than it actually was when he's, out on circuit or celebrating a result or struggling against a result. So that was apparently, and I'm not even going to quote that from Nico, but that's what somebody told me Nico had said, asked me for my thoughts. And I wrote back saying, I agree with him. Now, I wasn't agreeing, and I don't think for a second that Nico Rosberg was even suggesting that Lewis Hamilton wasn't ill. I'm certainly not suggesting Lewis Hamilton wasn't ill. I mean, of course he was ill. He was clearly, he had some kind of flu or cold or whatever. He wasn't 100%. Never doubting that. What I am agreeing with, and I think I'm agreeing because I think this is what Nico Rosberg meant by the comment in the first place, was that Lewis likes to highlight any extra challenges he's had to overcome when delivering a great result that may not be initially visible from a fan's perspective. The fact that he might be ill, or the fact that he might have had something going on in the cockpit that may not have been visible on the TV. For example, Lewis has a habit of making those people aware of that. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not using that as a criticism of Lewis. I just think it's part of his character. It's one of the things he does. He's a fairly insecure person some of the time, and so he uses that as one of the things that his character uses to build up his own self-belief, his confidence, whatever. Don't judge me for slagging off Lewis Hamilton. First of all, I'm not slagging off Lewis Hamilton, and secondly, I'm a massive Lewis Hamilton fan. So for all the abuse, and believe me, there was some pretty nasty abuse on Twitter, it doesn't bother me, it does go over my head, but I just wanted to address that because for lots of you who follow me both here on the vlog and on social platforms, that I think and I believe respect my opinions, respect my thought processes and the way that I share those thoughts with you. I don't want you to think that I'm suddenly saying that Lewis Hamilton was pretending to be ill for some reason, because I definitely wasn't. So hopefully that's put that to bed. I'm sorry if anyone misunderstood that, but there's absolutely no need to get so upset by something that you have misinterpreted. Even if I'll take responsibility for putting something out there that could be misinterpreted, you misinterpreted it. So apologies, but that's not what I meant. So that's that one. Then what else did we have to cover? Oh yeah. The other one that I really wanted to address, lots of people have brought up as well, was the idea that where Charles Leclerc went off at the final corner onto that patch of tarmac that was so slippery, loads of people went off, didn't he? And Charles mentioned when he went off that and I think post-race, that patch of tarmac was so slippery that it was dangerous. Then, of course, moments later, Lewis Hamilton slid off at the same point, and actually, still while Charles Leclerc was walking from his car through the gravel trap, Lewis Hamilton came out of control into that gravel trap and hit the wall. Now, they ended up missing each other, obviously, but you have to remember, how poignant that type of situation must be, particularly for Charles Leclerc, after what happened in Japan with his godfather. That's got to be a very, very touchy subject for him, something that's very emotive. And I've got to say, whilst I don't think for a second Charles was making excuses for him going off, he actually openly admitted the crash was his mistake and his fault. There is a point to say that surface was so slippery that a car could go off at that corner, could step over the curb, and actually could speed up heading towards the barrier on what was almost like an ice rink. That, for me, cannot be right. Whether there's another car parked in the barriers or not, it cannot be right. Now, lots of people arguing, well, Lewis Hamilton was clearly going too fast for the conditions. There's an argument there, but of course that was under the VSC, so he was driving towards a delta, wasn't he, on his dash? So I think that's a tough one to put on Lewis Hamilton's shoulders. I just think it was such treacherous conditions that unfortunately Lewis, driving very slowly, had no grip and still went off. The point was then, just stepping over the line, he became utterly a passenger in his car. He had no control over it and careered off towards the barriers. Now, there could have been marshals at that moment attending to Charles's car. What would have happened then? Even at that relatively low speed, a Formula One car sliding into a marshal could have been very serious. So, whilst I certainly don't blame Lewis for this, I do think it's something that should be addressed. I'm all for drivers being penalised if they run off the circuit. Put a gravel trap there, do whatever. But if it's so slippery that a car can actually, accelerate or certainly not lose any speed as he heads towards the barrier out of control, that can't be right, surely. So that was that one. Again, let me know your thoughts on all of these things, please, because I do appreciate it. I've had some great discussions, both on the Seedstream app actually today, and also across Twitter and Instagram. So many talking points coming out of that German Grand Prix. It's been absolutely brilliant. I've loved it. Oh, I know what the other one was. A really interesting talking point that lots of people have brought up about the idea of artificially introducing rain at a race. Now, controversial subject. I have sat in meetings when I was still working directly with Formula E. I've sat in meetings where this has been discussed very seriously at Formula E, with Formula E organisers, and to the point where it was almost introduced last season in Formula E. It was going to be a sprinkler type system. It was potentially going to be fan initiated, i.e. people voting for when it happened. Now, you can definitely argue that's a little bit Mickey Mouse, it's bordering on too much. But if you could have a randomly generated sprinkler system at certain points of a race, at somewhere like Paul Ricard, for example, where there's already a sprinkler system embedded around the edge of the circuit, at a racetrack which we struggle so much to get any excitement, well then why not look at introducing something that could bring the excitement? As long as it wasn't going to favour any one particular team at any given time, as long as it was random or we found a fair way to introduce it, would you be against that for the future? I know the traditionalists will hate the idea, and I totally get that. I totally get that this is out there thinking. But what's stopping us thinking out there for the future? Motorsport is supposed to be all about entertainment. That's why we all tune in every week. We want to be entertained. There's no doubting that the German Grand Prix was utterly entertaining for very different reasons. For example, that the British Grand Prix or the Austrian Grand Prix was entertaining. It's because it caught everybody out, it put everybody on the back foot, it levelled the playing field, it made there being introduced mistakes from teams and from drivers. It mixed up the order massively. It was changing conditions. We had to see drivers and teams reacting on the fly. We couldn't rely on preset simulations that have been worked out well in advance. So is there an argument that perhaps that could work at some point in the future somehow? I'm not saying just let's have somebody turn on a tap by the side of the circuit. Let's, you know, simulate it, try it out, check out, see what the results would be. I'd be all up for investigating that a bit more seriously as a potential option. Maybe not even at all circuits, certainly not at all races, but maybe somehow, somewhere, at some point in the future. Let me know what you think. Back soon. Ta-da.